Welcome to another edition of ATL Prime Sports. I'm JJ Jurjevich. Joining me tonight is our fabulous producer in beautiful Memphis, Tennessee, Wayne Ridenauer. No TC Todd Corder tonight. Taking a break, doing some play-by-play tonight, and just me and Wayne. So, Wayne, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. Tonight there's a University of Women's Lady Tigers game against East Carolina. I believe that's their last home game. Memphis' last home game for the men's basketball is going to be the 6th versus Houston. And that's going to be an intense game because we beat Houston down in Houston. So they're probably looking for revenge, and we're not going to let them have it.
I'm doing pretty good. I wish Major League Baseball and the Players Association would have come to an agreement, but as we all know, that did not happen. But I'm doing great. We'll talk about that and more right here on ATL Prime Sports. Got Dave Cohen, voice of the Georgia State Panthers, talking some Sun Belt basketball tournament. Coach K's final season, that's what's on tap. But let's go back. You can find us on all social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at ATL Prime Sports. We're now on Spotify and Apple. If you like what you're listening to, give us a review. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, a like, and a subscribe. Again, at ATL Prime Sports, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. For myself, Twitter at JJ Get You One, Wayne RWY Jr. That's at RWY Jr. and at Corder Todd for TC Todd Corder. Those are our personal Twitters. You can always follow us. We do follow back. So please feel free. Let's go ahead and get into it. We mentioned Coach K's final season. Duke men's basketball coach Mike Krzyzewski is retiring, coaching his final season. Will the Blue Devils make it 6 national titles for Coach K? Wayne, I'll start off with you, man. What are your thoughts? We'll have some fun with this segment. What are your thoughts on the Duke Blue Devils maybe accomplishing the ultimate feat and sending Coach K out a champion?
Well, realistically, I think they'll definitely make the tournament. I don't really see them getting to or even past the Sweet 16, though. And
Oh,
that's just
wow.
because there's a lot of other programs out there that I think are either going unnoticed or, you know, at some point, there's going to be some fatigue set in and some team's going to catch somebody off guard. But I don't think Duke is as dominant as they used to be in the past.
Well said. There are some inconsistencies with Duke, but I do think they can go deep. I think they will be poised for that run, that final run with Coach K. 41 years coaching, uh, only missed the NCAA tournament 5 times. That's pretty impressive. So hats off to Coach K and a wonderful career. Absolutely one of the greatest coaches in NCAA basketball history.
Now,
Look,
is what an interesting thing I want to mention about Coach K is didn't he play for Bobby Knight up there at Army?
yeah, West Point. He was a
Yeah.
player at West Point. Played under Bobby Knight. That was his mentor. Has a hard-nosed mentality, very much like Bobby Knight, and the fact that he's a hard-nosed, vulgar coach, as we all know. He is down to drop an F-bomb, as they say. Look, I think the Dukies have a good shot to cut down the nets in New Orleans. I do, Wayne. I'm a little different. I think this guy, the Banchero, the forward, 6'10", guy's an incredible athlete. Really covers baseline to baseline, extremely lengthy. Can block a shot, can get the steal. Really, an all-around player. And I think that's one of the reasons. Look, they went 15-3 in ACC play this year. They beat Kentucky. They beat Gonzaga out of the conference. Several other good wins they have under their belt. They got 5 players that average double figures. When you do that, you have several options at the end of a game, and guard play is key. They have a good guard. They have 2 good forwards. We mentioned Banchero. The other one's Moore. And you go around and you look at the defensive side of the ball. That side is taken care of by Mark Williams, who's center Mark Williams, who's averaging 2+ blocks per game. Excuse me, I got excited there. He's grabbing 6 boards plus a game. Look, that side of the court really belongs to Williams, and he can really hold down the paint, really make a team one-dimensional, make you shoot from outside. And when you play Duke, if you hit the 3-ball well, you've always been able to beat them. So Williams holds down the inside. And look, I like what Duke does. They do the small things well, Wayne. It's because Coach K is such a great coach, and he's done this for so long, that they do those small things right. Like, they don't send their opponents to the free throw line for easy points, and they're not turning the ball over. In both those categories, you can put Duke at the top of basketball. So when you are doing the small things right, winning becomes easy. And when you have as much tournament experience as Coach K does, I really find that Duke has motivation. Coach K's last year, obviously, we don't have enough motivation playing at Duke in general, but you add Coach K's final year to it, these players are going to be motivated. The one thing that does land a question mark here is they only have one player on the team right now that's got tournament experience and have scored a basketball in the NCAA tournament. So they don't have a lot of experience on that end. They're coming off a year in which they did not make the tournament a couple years ago during COVID, and then last year. So we'll see. The motivation factor is huge. Let's go ahead and talk about Coach K's career in general, Wayne, and let's talk about a couple good memories of Coach K, since this is his final razzle-dazzle. I'll go first on this one. I'm a Georgia fan, obviously. You listeners, our listeners do know that. So you got to throw Georgia Tech under the bus, and beating Georgia Tech 62 times, Coach K has done. 62 times. That's one of my top memories. There's way too many to narrow it down to one, but that's number 3. We'll go 3, 2, 1 here. My second one, I mentioned it, the tournament experience, 97 tournament wins. And 5 national titles. So he knows how to get the job done. 91, 92. His most recent, I think in 2015. I could be wrong about that. And then, look, my favorite memory of Coach K is in defeat. Losing to local school Mercer here in the Atlanta area in 2014. And after the game, going over to their locker room and congratulating each and every one of their players. I thought that was a class act and shows you how competitive this guy is, because Mercer flat out beat him there, Wayne, and we all remember that. They came in, beat him at their own game, and it was one of the biggest upsets of that basketball tournament. Wayne, your favorite memory or memories of Coach K over the years?
Well, I've always appreciated his sideline demeanor during the game. He's not the kind of coach that gets out onto the court, throws his arms up. In general, I'd say that he is opposite of somebody like Calipari or Pastner. He's very reserved and calculated. I always look at him and I think, man, what's he thinking about next? And he usually has the right solution for whatever the problem is. But in general, overall, his career, if there is such a thing as a NCAA basketball coach Hall of Fame, he should definitely be in there, and I would consider him one of the top 5 coaches of all time.
Yeah, you speak top 5 coaches of all time. Put him top 5 coaches of any team sport all time. This guy is one of those. One of the guys that gets the most out of every player, and he started out under the hot seat. Remember, the guy that was all the Duke fans wanted to bring in didn't come in. Coach K comes in, struggles at first. You have guys like Jay Billis that were just starting to reap the success, and then boom, you have the 91 and 92 seasons. So this is the type of coach that gets the absolute most out of his players, and I do like that. That was a great point. I do agree with you there, Wayne. I think he is one of the greatest coaches in the history of sports, period. And you can't say much more than that. Well, folks, we'll go ahead and go into Major League Baseball from college basketball. The Major League Baseball lockout continues. Tuesday, Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred gave everybody some dreaded news. He canceled opening day When will we see baseball? Let's talk some Major League Baseball lockout right here on ATL Prime Sports. Remember, folks, if you like these videos, give us a like, give us a thumbs up, give us a subscribe. If you like what you're hearing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, give us a review and give us a rating and say, hey, I'm listening. I appreciate it, guys. Again, Major League Baseball lockout. Commissioner Manfred said we are going to miss baseball games. It will be the first time in 27 years games will be canceled due to a labor dispute. There have been a little history here. There have been nine work stoppages in Major League Baseball history. This will be the fifth time, only the fifth time, that games will be missed due to the stoppages. Right now, the earliest we could see baseball is April 7th. Please make that date happen, as Manfred has canceled the first two series for every Major League Baseball team. It's a total of like 91 games right now for all 30 teams. Look, take a deep breath on this one. This may last a while. The players are really dug in. Both sides are at fault here. Both sides met Monday for over 16 hours during 13 different negotiating sessions. Sounds like a peace treaty's going on there, but no, it wasn't. They got farther and farther apart. On Tuesday, the players rejected the final offer from the owners, and that was after the 9th consecutive day of meeting. Again, both sides are to blame here, folks. But these are the main points of the lockouts right here. The players are mad because payrolls have decreased by 4% since 2015. The most contentious proposals involve luxury tax thresholds and rates. Then you go on to things like the size of a new bonus pool for pre-arbitration players, minimum salaries. I'm reading my notes here. Salary arbitration eligibility, the union's desire to change the club revenue sharing formula, and I'm out of breath, and that's where I'm stopping. But those are just some of the issues that are going on behind the scenes. And boy, I'd love to be a fly on the wall listening to which side the players are on, where the players lie, how far apart they are, and what they are disagreeing on is all what the fans want to know, because I think this is something that could be solved pretty quickly. I just think it comes down to money, and that's what it all comes down to. Wayne, quick thought on Major League Baseball lockout before we get to our guest, Dave Cohen, voice of the Georgia State Panthers.
Well, I'm going to throw a dart out into the dark and make a guess as to the fact that this revenue sharing is going to be the big hang up and the thing that's causing most of the issue. That's just the way I feel, because I think at some point owners want to keep what they can and don't want to renegotiate what they've got now.
Yeah, I think a lot of it too is salary cap. There's issues with salary cap. The arbitration's a big issue. Players want to become free agents quicker and get more money. They want league minimums versus when a player can go to arbitration. There's just so much to deal with. But folks, we're going to wrap that up. We'll hold that thought for another day as we bring in our guest and friend of the show, voice of the Georgia State Panthers, Dave Cohen. Dave, how you doing tonight, man?
Pretty good. How are you guys?
We're doing well. How'd the game go tonight?
Not good. It was Chattahoochee and Centennial, game 2 of their pregame series. They play again on Friday night, but the final was 7-1. Chattahoochee fell to Centennial. So.
Oh, not the result we were expecting.
Nope. But you got to be out there anyway to support.
Yeah, you got to. Well, Dave, we appreciate you coming on. Let's talk a little Georgia State. Let's talk a little Coach K. We were talking Coach K in his final season. The Panthers played in a 2K Classic tournament, and they played the Duke Blue Devils in 2019, right before the pandemic ended the season. Your thoughts on calling the game and Coach K's legacy? Quick comment on that, and maybe a favorite memory or two if you have one of Coach K.
Well, Georgia State has played Duke twice, as you mentioned. The first time was at that 2K Classic. I think that's what they called it. I don't remember what year it was. I was not at that game, and the reason I was not at that game is because Georgia State football was playing in Orono, Maine, against the Black Bears of Maine, and it was Bill Curry's last game as head football coach at Georgia State. So I was not at that game, and I didn't make it to Cameron Indoor until, as you mentioned, 2019 when we played them. Actually played them pretty good up there. I forget what the final score was, but it was a very, very competitive game on Georgia State's behalf. And, I've never had any interaction with Coach Krzyzewski. Obviously, he, had a ton of success and has had a ton of success at Duke. And, it is what it is. And it's the passing of the baton at we'll call a blue blood college basketball program. We feel about it much the same we do when we talk about the Dean Smith years at North Carolina, the various coaches that have come and gone at programs like Kentucky, so on and so forth. So, he's had a great career. And, times were different, too, because if you think back to when he first got to Duke, did not have a lot of success right out of the gate.
No.
Upon his arrival at Durham. But in those days, and I say in those days, however many years ago it was, college athletics was in a different place, and the money wasn't the same. The pressure to win wasn't the same. Athletic directors, for the most part, gave their coaches ample time to come in and build the program. And because, I forget exactly when I heard it, but I remember listening to an interview that on a national radio show that Coach Krzyzewski was doing. And I think he kind of alluded to the fact that if he were an up-and-coming coach now, he would not have possibly been afforded the time and the wherewithal to build a program if he found himself in a similar situation that he was when he arrived at Duke. And it says a lot about where college athletics was when he came to Durham. And it says a lot about where it is now with regards to the pressure and the money that has infiltrated both college basketball and college football.
Yeah, you mentioned it. I was just reading an article about it. The alumni association, the boosters, they were kind of grumbling at the end of his first 2 or 3 years. They're like, "Is this the guy?" He got an extension, and then the rest is history. And Georgia State fell to Duke 74-63 in that 2K Classic in 2019. That was a pretty competitive game, as you mentioned, and in a pretty big preseason tournament, or kind of preseason. I guess it's the beginning of the season there,
Right.
But
yeah, it was not a tournament. It was a one-off game.
Oh, it was. I thought, okay. I thought it was one of those.
We only played the one game there. And, I've never been a big Duke fan. I mean, I certainly respect what they've done and what Coach Krzyzewski has done. But I will say it was cool to be inside Cameron Indoor Stadium and to experience calling a game in that venue. So,
yeah, it's good.
I'll give it that. But I was not in awe of being at Duke. It was cool, but it wasn't a bucket list item for me.
Yeah.
And I don't say that flippantly.
No, I know what you mean. I mean, and especially there when a competitive matchup. So we'll move on. We'll talk about those Panthers. They ended the season on a good run. They got a top 4 seed, so they await the winner of Game 3, the 10-7 game, ULM and Arkansas State. Which team would the Panthers better match up against when they do face whoever they face Saturday?
Well, Georgia State will go in as the number 3 seed, and that wasn't decided until the final game this past Friday night, because Georgia State was the 4th seed going into Friday, and we all knew that if we were able to win the final game against the Cajuns and Troy lost, then by percentage points, we would move into third place in the final regular season standings. So Georgia State will go in as the number 3 seed. You know, personally, I would rather play the Louisiana Monroe. We played them twice during the regular season, beat them both times. It's not a very deep team. I think they played 6, maybe 7 guys. Each time we played them, we beat them in Monroe and obviously beat them in Atlanta. We did not face Arkansas State this year. We were supposed to make the Arkansas State-Arkansas Little Rock trip, and that trip was canceled right before New Year's because of COVID issues. And so, you know, the only thing that worries me about them is obviously they had a much better season than ULM. They also have the Offensive Player of the Year, Norshad Omier, who averages 19 points and 13 rebounds. That's a guy who can take over a ball game all by himself. And that's not to say that, you know, he scares me or anything from where I'll be sitting in the arena Saturday, but I would feel better in a first round game playing a team that you've played twice and beat twice during the regular season, as opposed to a 16-10 Arkansas State team. I think they were 8-8 in the Sun Belt Conference. That could potentially pose problems if you're not on your A game. And Georgia State has certainly been, for the most part, on their A game. But you get into tournament play, and you never know. We found that out last year in the second half against Appalachian State down in Pensacola. So I go into these tournaments year after year taking nothing for granted.
Yeah. Well, is the women's tournament in the same arena or the same area as the men's tournament? And, you know, do those go one after another?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the Georgia State women, they got underway tonight, meaning Wednesday night. For anybody watching this, you know, a taped version of this. But yeah, last year the men played at the Pensacola Bay Center, or the Bay Arena. The women were at another arena or gymnasium that was nearby. I believe that the entire tournament is being played in the Bay Center down there in Pensacola this year.
I asked that because the American Conference tournament is in Fort Worth at the Dickey Center, and they're going to do the entire women's tournament, I believe, first, and then the men's tournament. And, you know, my son's going to be in that traveling band and going and playing for the women's games in the pep band. And they said that if the women go the full length, then they'll stay there, you know, and play for all those games. But if not, they're not going to come back and then go back for the men's. They're just going to stay there in, you know, the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So that's going to be a long road trip either way.
Yeah, it makes for a long day if you're someone that's working inside the facility and you've got to be there before the crack of dawn, and then you're there till the very last buzzer of the last game and that on that particular day. And I know last year there were people that were going back and forth who worked for a specific school. They had to go watch or cover the women's game at this facility and then come back to the Pensacola Bay Center, you know, for the men's tournament, you know, later that day. But Pensacola, I think, you know, I was one of those that was always fine going to New Orleans. Since Georgia State rejoined the Sun Belt Conference, every year the conference tournament was at Lakefront Arena in New Orleans. Yeah. I think there was the consensus around the league was that there were a number of, we'll call them, let's say, athletic directors, coaches, people who have a say, who were interested in maybe trying a new city and a new venue. As opposed to just keeping it in New Orleans. The Sun Belt Conference offices are inside the Superdome.
Okay, I didn't know
so it made sense that they wanted the tournament in their home city, and they're near their base of operations. But Pensacola won the bid, and we were there last year for the first time. It is kind of cool. It is fun to go to a new city. Pensacola has embraced the Sun Belt Conference tournament, whereas maybe in New Orleans it would get lost a little bit. Pensacola has embraced it, and it's an easier for some schools, especially the easternmost schools in the Sun Belt. It's made travel a little bit easier to and from from what I've heard. But
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to getting down there
well,
on Thursday, and we'll be on the air Saturday night.
all right. Well, one of the things that is going to be similar between the Sun Belt and the American Conference is once we get into this expansion and adding all these other teams, the opportunities and places to play those tournaments at may get expanded into some maybe exciting places.
Well, probably not with regards to the Sun Belt, because you either have to go to Gettysburg, Mississippi, Huntington, West Virginia, Newport News, Virginia, or Harrisonburg, Virginia.
Oof.
With regards to the 4 new schools that are coming in.
Well, I would recommend not going to Hattiesburg. I've never really enjoyed myself down there. There's nothing wrong with the people down there. It's just, I don't know, maybe it's bad experience on my part.
Yeah, I've been there. I've done a couple of games at Southern Miss with Georgia State basketball, but I always thought Nashville would make a good location, or Birmingham would make a good location with regards to the teams that are out in Texas and Louisiana and Arkansas to come east towards Birmingham or Nashville. And for those of us who we'll call the eastern half of the Sun Belt, Nashville's only 3.5, 4 hours from Atlanta. So the Alabama schools can get there. The Carolina schools can get there. And Nashville obviously is a fun city to go to. Not that Pensacola isn't, but Nashville, for obvious reasons, in my opinion, makes for a really quality tournament destination.
It absolutely does. The Music City's a fun place to host. NFL teams, the Nashville Predators, the Tennessee Titans are there, and obviously all the country music you could ask for, and much, much more. Well, Dave, I got to ask you one question before we go. It's got to be about football. You were at spring practice last week. Give us your thoughts on what Coach Elliott and the boys are up to, and spring games not too far away.
Yeah, Georgia State will play a spring game kind of earlier this year. It'll be April the 1st at Center Park Stadium. I was actually down at the stadium on Tuesday and was down there again today for practice, and actually Wednesday, Thursday. And, very upbeat, very positive. I don't know if you saw the schedules came out in the Sun Belt Conference. Georgia State, that's going to be a tough schedule. That Sun Belt East is no joke, as we've talked about before. But our first 2 games are at South Carolina on September 3rd and at home against North Carolina on September the 10th. That's right out of the gate.
Yeah, well, and then eventually you have to play Army up there at West Point, and that's going to be pretty tough, I think.
That's no joke either, and that'll be in I believe early to mid-October. That road trip up to West Point. But yeah, no, everybody's upbeat, especially coming off the season that they had a year ago with a school record 8 wins and another bowl win at the Camellia Bowl. Right now, looking to fill some spots. I actually spent some time this morning with our offensive and our defensive coordinator, kind of going over each side of the ball and what players they, at this point of spring practice, could see filling up spots on the roster. A couple of spots that are going to have to be filled, obviously, are the starting left guard with Shamarius Gilmore, who hopefully will get a look-see at the next level. He played 5 years, and he's obviously moved on. But some other positions along the offensive line with regards to guys that'll be backing up the 4 returning starters, and then again filling that left guard spot. And the same thing on the defensive side of the football, plugging in names and guys in behind the returning starters at your inside linebacker spots, and your 2 defensive end spots. And there's a lot of experience back, so they're looking at it as an opportunity, kind of like last year at this time, getting some of the younger guys enough opportunities to learn from the returning guys, the veterans, so that it's a seamless transition when some of these guys that have been around here 3, 4, and 5 years eventually do move on. So, a lot of excitement with regards to the players that are back and the new offensive coordinator, although, Josh has been around the program now since Coach Elliott arrived, but he moves into a new position. And again, excitement over the challenging schedule that they're going to play here in 2022.
Yeah, that Sunbelt East is no joke with the Thundering Herd and James Madison coming in there. Good Lord, that's like the SEC West right there in Sunbelt football. Well, Dave, thanks for coming on. Before we let you go, tell our listeners, viewers, how they can catch your call on Saturday for the Sunbelt tournament game.
We'll be on the radio Saturday night from Pensacola on our 50,000-watt flagship, 88.5 FM WRAS, longtime home of Georgia State football and basketball. And anybody that's not within listening range in Atlanta can always download the GSU Athletics mobile app. We'll be streaming audio on the mobile app, and if you don't have that, then you can get the TuneIn Radio app and just search WRAS. And we will be there. I'm looking forward to it. We hit the airwaves at 6 p.m. on Saturday night. As you mentioned earlier, it'll either be Louisiana Monroe or Arkansas State to get things started for us down there.
Well, Dave, we will be looking forward to your call. And again, we appreciate you coming on. Listeners, viewers, you can find Dave on Twitter at GA State Voice. Again, you know how to get the call now. Dave, thanks again for joining us tonight.
Always a pleasure. We'll talk to you next week. Hopefully, if we do this next week, Georgia State will be waiting to see where they've been seated in the NCAA tournament. If not, we'll find something else to talk about.
That's what we're hoping for. Fingers crossed. Again, basically the basketball hopes of the state of Georgia lies in downtown Atlanta with the Panthers.
Yeah, and I would say Mercer has a shot in the Southern Conference tournament. Mercer has been pretty good. And I know you guys were talking baseball before I joined tonight, and I did Georgia State, Georgia Tech on ESPN Plus last night. And we had a great ball game, even though Georgia State lost 4-2. We left the bases loaded in the bottom of the eighth. In the absence of Major League Baseball, and I know you've got your Braves gear on, I'm a Red Sox guy because I'm from Boston, although I like the Braves as well. I don't know that I'm going to miss it because if you really want to watch pretty good baseball, there's a college near you.
Absolutely.
Where you can go watch pretty good college baseball. And I just walked back in from high school baseball. So the sport is out there at different levels if you love the sport and want to watch baseball. So
yeah, and it's affordable too.
Yes. Thank you, Wayne. I was going to say the same thing. It's a third, maybe even less than that of the ticket cost of a Major League Baseball game. So yeah, folks, go out there. I'm going to try and get to Midtown and see the Jackets and also see the Panthers play while this lockout continues. Again, Dave, thanks for coming on. We always appreciate it. And go Panthers. We'll look forward to the call on Saturday.
All right. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
See ya. This is Dave Cohen, voice of the Georgia State Panthers, football, baseball, and men's basketball. Folks, that basically wraps up our show. Wayne, what you got for a final thought for the night, my friend?
Well, just getting close to tournament time for basketball. And like you said, if you're a fan of baseball and the MLB doesn't want to play, then there's plenty of other baseball teams playing. You can go see them live even. Yeah,
right down the street. I mean, you have great baseball, community college level, all the way on up to Division I. Folks, go support your local high school, your local college. Wayne, my final thoughts got to be about Atlanta United getting the season started off on the right foot with the 3-1 win over Sporting KC in front of more than 67,000 fans. The most attended soccer game post-pandemic, and it was right here at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That wraps it up for Wayne. I'm JJ. Thanks for listening to ATL Prime Sports. No show Friday, so stay tuned to our social media for the next one. We'll see you next time. Get you one.